Welcome to Foundation Friday. The dedication and covenant of silent unity was signed on December 7th, 1892 by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, founders of the Unity movement. It is unlikely when they signed this covenant that they had any idea how far-reaching unity would be as it evolved into the church we know and love today. We invite you to join us as we explore and share some of the original ideas, teachings, and writings of the men and women who created the foundation of the Unity Church.
Hi, happy Friday. Today, for our Foundation Friday series, we are going to look at an early writing by Charles Fillmore, co-founder of the Unity Church, the Unity movement. And this book is called The Unreality of Matter. Now, this book is available as a PDF at unity.org if you're interested in downloading it and reading it. Now, this book is about 100 years old, and what caught my eye is something that Charles Fillmore wrote. It's on page 17 of the book that I'm looking at. For anybody who has followed the writings of the co-founders of Unity, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, we all know that Myrtle was much more emotional and intuitive, and Charles was much more scientific and mechanical. Kind of an interesting pairing, not unlike the pairings we see frequently in marriages. Charles Fillmore, for me at least, can be a little bit hard to follow because he uses a lot of the terms that were scientifically correct at the time. But this reading, it just gave me chills. And I think you will really enjoy it as well. What we're looking at is relation of sound to form, how sounds are made visible. And of course, today we know that Charles Fillmore in this writing is playing with the idea of energy being made manifest. And we know a lot more about that today than he could have possibly known. He was very much ahead of his time. So I'm going to quit yakking at you and share with you Mr. Fillmore's words. I hope you enjoy this. Among the most interesting results of modern science, this is 100 years ago, is the discovery that musical sounds can imprint themselves upon matter and produce definite forms as surely and unerringly as the electric needle can record the motions of the force discharged from a distant battery. Sound is a thing so ethereal to fancy that its very nature has long baffled the human penetration. And we cannot wonder that the recondite aspect of its power, to which we especially allude, should have remained entirely unknown until a comparatively recent period. Yet, if we reflect upon the constitution of sound, we shall see nothing very surprising in the fact that it can produce form. When an elastic body vibrates, it imparts vibrations to the surrounding atmosphere. The air vibrating in response to the movement of the body is itself the sound, though not recognized by us as such until these vibrations have been conveyed to our ears. But as a breeze will cause a twig to stir, and as the slightest whisper of wind will create motions among the leaves and lift them to a new position, harmonious vibrations of air take effect in altering the conditions of the body they impinge on. Experiment has amply proved that the human voice is capable of printing form upon matter as successfully and distinctly as a violin bow drawn across the edges of a plate. The discoverer of this fact is Mrs. Watts Hughes. The experiments are conducted as followed. A hollow receiver is procured over the mouth of which is stretched an elastic membrane. The surface of the membrane is covered with a semi-fluid paste of such consistency that the very light impressions can be easily received. A singer sings into the surface of the membrane, exercising the greatest care that his notes are singularly steady and perfectly accurate. At once, the musical note mirrors itself on the paste, and in the most unexpected form. Forms of flowers, as perfect as if they were drawn, occur among the rest. They indeed constitute the majority of the figures. Daisies, with every petal exactly shaped, are common. Lilies, equally symmetrical, are not rare. A change of note or timbre will produce a miniature tree on the paste. By some slight variation, impossible to estimate, the figure of a starfish will appear. Another imperceptible difference of sound will produce an anemone. Occasionally, the vibrations, presumably owing to an unconscious augmentation of force on the part of the singer, will imprint themselves into the forms of shells, beautifully vaulted. The wrinkles in the scroll being so inclusive, indented and then photographed, they appear like creases in the picture. Suddenly deserting these marine forms as capriciously as they took them up, the sounds will create ferns, suspended bunches of fruit, and otherwise adorn the membrane. This is, of course, much more room for conjecture regarding the production of these various forms. Some facts, however, we know for certain. When the sound is producing flowers on the paste, the singer can at pleasure increase the number of petals by gradually making the tone ascend. At each fraction of a tone on which his voice raises, a new petal is added to the flower. He can thus, by careful management of his breath, increase a pygmy daisy to a gigantic sunflower. In the other forms, for example, the shells, this addition piece by piece does not appear, and the scroll, as once fashioned, remains. The forms thus produced on the paste are photographed while the membrane is in sonorous vibration, or watercolor impressions are taken, which are transformed to the work immediately. The advantage of the latter method is that the minute beauty and delicacy of the forms can be shown to perfection by the use of various colors for different parts of the object. Such phenomena as the preceding bring us to the threshold of an interesting inquiry into the reality of one of the most extraordinary ideas of antiquity. The Greeks held, in the person of Philagoras, his school, and numerous natural philosophers who followed him, the doctrine that music is the principle of form in nature, and that every shape and natural figure in the animate and inanimate world was determined and created by the divine infusion of music into a formless chaos. Like I said, he was well ahead of his time. I certainly hope you found that reading as interesting as I did, and perhaps you walked away with some interesting ideas to contemplate as well. As always, thank you for joining us here at Unity Church of El Cajon for our Foundation Friday series. Namaste.
Thank you for joining us, and let's stay connected and grow in spirit. We are on Facebook. Search for Unity Church of El Cajon and follow us and like our posts. You can reach us on YouTube at Unity Church of El Cajon. Please subscribe to our channel, watch our videos, and leave comments which can help us improve. We are on the web at unityofelcajon.org. Email or call our church office to receive our weekly newsletters, which lists all of our activities and opportunities to learn and grow together.